Welcome to Dare to Dwell, a podcast with the Daughters of St. Paul. We're so glad you're here. For this season, the sisters met up with college students and campus ministers at the Seek Conference in St. Louis, Missouri, to talk about their experiences and questions about the Catholic faith, deepening our prayer life, and more. Join Sister Benedicta and Sister Orianne as they reflect on the students' questions and comments and dive deeper into the topics they bring up. Enjoy today's episode.
Hi, welcome back to Dare to Dwell, a podcast with the Daughters of St. Paul. I'm Sister Orianne, Pietra, René.
I'm Sister Julie Benedicta.
And this is part 2 of a doozy.
Yeah.
We're diving deep into prayer with a lot of your guys' questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in the first one, we kind of touched on some of the really basic how-tos and wins and some of the most common pitfalls and things like that. So in this one, we're going to go even just a little bit deeper than all of that.
Yeah. And if you're struggling, again, on that deeper level with prayer, this is the episode for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if you're not, this might be good for your arsenal for later.
Yes.
For when it
Keep
comes.
Keep it up your sleeve.
Because it will come.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe we could just dive right in with some comments from Kara about God's voice and the volume that he chooses to use.
Yeah.
Here we go.
I think for me, a really tough thing was not hearing God's voice as loud as I would like to. Sometimes I expected it to be very booming. And it's still difficult, honestly, to try and sit in silence, because it's not easy to, and just try to let that, what is going on in my heart, and try to process that. So, yeah.
So real.
Seems like a good place to start.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very good place to start. That God is too quiet, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There is this trick in teaching.
You have a trick?
I have a trick. It's a volume control and focus trick. You know what you know exactly where I'm going.
Yeah. It's a disappointing trick.
When the class is going crazy and everyone is really loud, the biggest temptation that we can have is to yell over the din, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't work.
Nope.
It just adds to the noise. So what teachers will often do is that they will start speaking very quietly.
Mm-hmm.
And 1 or 2 kids will notice, only out of, let's say, a class of 32.
Mm-hmm.
They turn and they kind of lean in because they have to. And then all of a sudden they realize their whole attention has to be on you in order to hear what you're saying. And the people around them are like, whoa, I just felt like a vibe change. What's going on? They notice that they're leaning in to hear you. They turn, they lean in. And eventually it actually trickles to the entire class. You didn't have to raise your voice once.
Yeah.
And they heard you better than if you had yelled. God does that?
Yeah.
He's a teacher.
Yeah.
There is a passage in 1 Kings that I think is perfect for this. It's 1 Kings chapter 19, and it says, this is talking about Elijah. He said, "Go out and stand on the mountain before the Lord, for the Lord is about to pass by." Now there was a great wind, so strong that it was splitting mountains and breaking rocks in pieces before the Lord, but the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after a fire, a sound of sheer silence. When Elijah heard it, he wrapped his face in his mantle and went out and stood at the entrance of the cave. Then there came a voice to him that said, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" I love that Elijah, all those other things that were so loud, they grab your attention.
Yeah.
And it can be very tempting for us to say, great, if God spoke like that, I would hear him. I would follow.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he knows we wouldn't.
Well, but also, earthquakes and fires are scary.
That's true.
So, they grab your attention, but they're also frightening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's not to say the Lord has never used a loud sound before.
No.
At all. Actually, we see examples where he does. But in general, it is. He uses that still small voice that requires us to lean in. And that's the kind of relationship that he wants with us, not one of distance, right? Because when we're shouting at someone, usually there's some kind of distance, either already there or one that we've created because we're shouting.
Whether that's physical distance, I'm shouting because you can't hear me otherwise across the parking lot.
Right.
Or there's some kind of an emotional distance. There's
Right.
anger.
Yeah.
You're trying to overcome something else that's happening in the space.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, sometimes the Lord will use a loud sound, often when we need to be kind of shook out of something.
Mhm.
But in general, it is that quiet voice that requires us to lean in. And I love how in the passage from Kings, Elijah realizes in that silence, oh, he's here.
Mhm.
And he covers his face like that's a sign of reverence.
Yeah.
And he goes out to meet him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that image of kind of like the whispering conversation
Mm-hmm.
also kind of points to a level of intimacy.
Yes, absolutely.
Mhm.
And it's hard to build that. Again, kind of going back to what we spoke about briefly in a previous episode in this season, how it can feel like there's a disparity in equality in this relationship because he knows so much about us and we're still learning about him, right?
Yeah.
And that's okay. It's because he knows us so well that he can whisper that intimately, you know?
Mhm.
And in a sense, we kind of learn to whisper back.
Mhm.
Because it's also our instinct to want to shout. It's not just, we don't just want a really loud voice from God. We want to be loud with God. And it's okay. It's okay to be loud with God.
Mhm.
But we get to that point of relationship where it's the simplest, quietest whispers of our heart that we can't even articulate aloud that we offer up to him and he hears.
Yeah.
And he whispers back. And it's okay to be in that struggling place of our relationship where we're like, but you're too quiet.
Mhm.
That's okay. That's how we learn.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like we were talking about in the last episode with the whole sense of not knowing what God's doing now,
Mm-hmm.
but knowing that he promises that someday, whether it's in this life or the next, we will understand. So it may be that we don't understand until we're standing before him at the judgment, ready to enter heaven,
like,
purified and, with all of the beatific vision. But we will understand,
Yeah.
and it will have been for our good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here's our next clip.
My goal and what the goal of everyone should be is to strive to be a saint. And I know for me is that I need to just tune out what everyone else is saying and realize that I'm doing this for the glory of God. But it gets really hard because, especially for college students, you care a lot about what other people are thinking too, because you're going to be surrounded in these groups with these people for 4 years. And so it gets hard when you care so much. But then the more time you spend with God, the more time you're meditating, the more time you're at adoration, that's when you realize that doesn't matter. And what matters is that you're focusing, you're zoning in completely on God, and that you're locking in to your faith.
So I think the two things that I really love that he said were, number one, that at the end of the day, like the whole goal is to strive to be a saint.
Yeah.
Like that's the main thing, right? And then the other thing was that with all of these other distractions and other things that are going on, and with all of the opinions and thoughts of other people, that the more time we spend with God, the more that stuff kind of stops mattering.
Mm-hmm.
And the more we become aware of what really does matter. And it's those things that matter to God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think, the more time we spend with God, the closer we get to him. Christ forms himself in us, right? Christ forms his heart in us. And as that happens, slowly but surely, it's not really related to age so much as spiritual maturity in that capacity.
Yeah.
The opinions of other people, as he's saying, when you're living with people for what, 4 years, 6 years, 10 years, of course, what they think is going to affect you, right?
Yeah, sure.
It's natural, especially at the beginning of your relationship, to feel that.
Mm-hmm.
But the more Christ's heart is formed in you, the more you start to see them and their opinions and how their opinions affect you through the heart of God.
Yeah.
Rather than the other way around. Yeah. And the more you can see that, the more you actually experience God's longing for those very people whose opinions may not be endorsing God, shall we say?
Yeah.
And I think that's so important to recognize that when we're stepping back and we're saying, oh my goodness, this person is going to think that I'm weird.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they probably will. And am I seeing that through the lens of my own heart that desires the approval of other people? Or am I seeing that through the heart of God of, I have a child who does not yet know me and thinks I'm weird, as many children think of their parents. And is there a way that I can actually bring that person into a space where they might actually be able to ask me a question about this quote unquote weird God that I serve so that they can get to know him better too, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's making me think of two different things that St. Paul said. I don't remember exactly where he said it, but there's a place where he says, if you think you're standing, take care not to fall.
Oh, yeah.
Bad company corrupts good morals,
Mm-hmm,
you know?
mm-hmm.
And he's just kind of like warning the people, like, make sure that you're not being sucked in to the things that are going on around you, and don't, like, almost don't be cocky.
Yeah. No, truly. Yeah.
Like don't be overconfident in your ability to kind of ignore whatever else is going on around you.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing that I love is St. Paul says this kind of thing all the time, but in 2 Corinthians, he says, "Let no one think me foolish. But even if you do, accept me as a fool."
Yeah.
So, and then he's kind of poking fun at the Corinthians a little bit, right? Because
Yeah.
he's like, "You gladly bear with fools, being wise yourselves," you know? But he's basically saying, like, okay, if you think I'm a fool because of my faith in Christ, fine.
Yeah.
Fine. But you know what? Become a fool then too.
Yeah.
Like, be a fool with me for Christ. And so, like, I just love how much Paul just does not care. It's one of the things I love the most about him. He's just like, "Oh, you think I'm crazy? Come join me."
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And yeah, and it just doesn't matter because Jesus is so real to him.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus is so real to him that he doesn't care if a whole city is calling him a fool.
Mm-hmm.
And this reality of, like, I know we have a lot more commentary on just kind of like peer pressure and culture and these sorts of things that'll come up later. But when it comes to prayer, like, allowing those things to become obstacles to what the Lord is telling us about who we are, what we're called to, what he's inviting us to, even preventing us from going to prayer to begin with, that's really sad. Like, don't do that.
Truly. And I love that you pull out those examples from St. Paul, because we have that phrase or that expression in Latin, cor Pauli, cor Christi, right?
Mm-hmm.
The heart of Paul is the heart of Christ. And the only reason we say that is because the Lord so formed his own heart and the heart of Paul that he was really looking at people through the lens of the Lord's heart rather than his own.
Yeah.
So that ability to be like, I don't give two hoots what you think of me. I want you to be standing here with me.
Yeah.
That freedom, there's a real interior freedom to that. But also a longing, which he expresses many other places in his letters, this like burning desire, like to the point where he'll say, like, I don't care what happens to me in this life or the next, save my people. He says that so often. And that longing comes from that heart of Christ who said, I will die, but save the people, you know, so beautiful. And
also the Lord who looked at the apostles after people were leaving him because they thought he was crazy and said, do you also want to go? He didn't backtrack. He didn't change his words. He didn't try to make it more palatable. He didn't say, well, maybe I can explain this in a way that you'll understand a little bit better or you'll feel better about or you'll think is less crazy. He just said, do you also want to go? Yeah. You know? And so to be able to stand there with him in that, and honestly, the courage of the apostles to stay there with him while all these other people are calling him crazy and leaving.
Right. Yeah.
That's not something to scoff at either.
No, and it hurts. It's not like Paul didn't feel it. It's not like Jesus didn't feel it. But they felt something even deeper, the longing for their people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Okay, so I also really loved what Ashley had to say here. So I think this is really on topic with what we've been talking about as well. So let's listen to Ashley.
Yeah, I think for me at least, I think the simplicity behind the faith sometimes is the hardest part about pursuing God. I think it's 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 3. It says, for the will of God is your sanctification. And every time I read that, I'm like, it's so simple. He just wants me in heaven with him. And then I overthink every decision. I'm like, are you sure you want me to do this? Am I understanding you right? And I'm like, whatever's going to make me holy, he wants me to do, but it just seems too simple.
This is so real. We are the complicated ones.
It's so true.
Not God. Yeah, I really love this. Overthinking in the spiritual life.
It's so easy.
I happen to be a master at this skill. And, you know, in a sense, it does come from a place of desiring to do the will of God, right? But it also comes from a place of, I need to understand perfectly.
Yeah.
And if I don't get all the steps right, I'm going to somehow mess up the will of God because I am actually more in charge of this and more powerful and more capable of determining the outcome than God is.
Right. Yeah.
Yes. Welcome to my life.
And I think too, like just this recollection that the will of God for us is our sanctification.
Yes.
The will of God is to have us in heaven with him. Like that was actually the prayer of Jesus at the Last Supper.
Exactly.
Was I'm going to do the next few things that need to be done. But Father, the thing that I want is for them to be with me. I'm doing it for them. I love them. I want them with me. And that includes each and every one of us. And I think when it comes to prayer, just like keeping that in mind and knowing that God's love for us is so incredibly profound. Like I'm thinking again of the passage I shared. I think it was the episode on distraction from John Paul II's letter on mercy.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And like God's desire is for us to be with him. He desires to give us mercy. He desires to give us love. He is the God of tender love. And his longing is for us to be happy and with him forever.
Yeah. And I think if this is any comfort to anyone listening, there is a chapter in the book of Acts where Paul has already had his conversion and he's traveling around the world, the known world at the time, preaching the gospel. And he actually is aiming for a particular country that he feels really, motivated to go to. He's focused. He is sure that this is where he's supposed to go. And it says the Spirit of the Lord prevented him from entering. We don't know exactly what happened, but whatever it was very clearly circumstantial. Yeah. The Lord was acting through the circumstances to prevent him from entering. So whatever he did, he was just waiting for clarity. Is this an obstacle that I need to overcome? Are you testing me, Lord? Are you sending me in a different direction? And it was only after a while that he received a vision explaining exactly why, exactly where he needed to go. Not the ins and outs of it. It was actually quite vague, but he knew where he needed to go instead. It never said, why did I bring you here only to block you, to send you somewhere else? Paul never found that out.
No.
But he gained clarity. The Lord used the circumstances, even though he didn't hear it in prayer, in a voice until that moment. And the Lord does the same for us. He will guide us. Even if we go in a direction where ultimately we're not really supposed to go to that place, he'll guide us. He does.
Yeah, and I love that you're pulling out from the life of St. Paul. Like, there's so much that happened to him. Like he, at a couple of different points, he gives like a litany, right? Of like how many times he was shipwrecked, how many times he was stoned, how many times he was whipped, how many times he was thrown out of cities,
this guy's keeping
run
track.
out of town, like and and yet he says, for me to live is Christ and to die is gain.
Yeah.
To live is Christ because I am on Christ's mission and I'm going to continue doing whatever I need to do. And he even says to I can't remember which letter somebody even says like, I desire to remain alive for your sake.
Right.
Like I desire to continue living this life because it's good for you that I do that. But actually my real desire is to be in heaven with Jesus. Yeah. And just like how securely he held that in his mind and in his heart at all times, that was ultimately the reason for everything he was doing. Yeah. And I think in the context of prayer, when we're really talking about prayer, like to remember that is the God that we approach when we come to pray, that this God who wants nothing more than our sanctification, who wants nothing more than like the perfection of our souls, who wants nothing more than for us to know his love completely. That is who we approach when we come to pray. It's so hard to remember that sometimes, especially when a bunch of stuff is happening. Right. When the shipwrecks are happening and the stonings are happening and the casting out of polite society is happening. To remember like who it is that this God is that we approach.
So I think this is a really good place when we're talking about the litany of all the horrible things that happened to St. Paul. and his trust in the Lord through that to actually segue to our next person. Crystal brings up some really good points about trust.
The biggest struggle for me, and just like the word that kept coming up for me, was trust. And like how do I trust God? And like I think it looks different for everyone. And I think for me, it just kept coming up in adoration, in mass, like in all these moments. And I'm like, I prayed and I'm like, how do I trust you? Like, how do I trust you, Lord? How much? And am I trusting you enough? Where am I at? And I think I struggled a lot with that during the semester. And I think over time, he's shown me and he's given me like just examples or moments in my like life where I'm like, this is the part where you do trust God. And I think but it's been a struggle. I think I could say that for a lot of us, like maybe just trusting the Lord can be scary because you kind of just want to take control over your life and like you just have to let go. And I think I'm still on that journey, and I think I will be for a really long time. But learning to let go and trust God is probably one of the struggles that I've had recently, and I'm just slowly starting to just realize, just being aware of it. And I think that's really just, it's a good place to start.
I love this. How do I trust God, and how much do I trust God?
Mm-hmm. 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 And we know the theoretical answer.
Sure.
Right? You jump in and you give him all of it.
That's a happy theory.
that's the like ideal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think when she said it looks different for everyone, I mean, the basis of trust is the same for everyone, but it's true that we all live very different experiences of life. And therefore, yes, trust will look different. And depending on your state in life, what's going on in your life, what's going on in the world around you, it will look very different. I think when we learn to trust God in the little things, the little things are what build us up to the big things. Often we approach it backwards.
Yeah.
We are like, yes, God, tell me what to do. I will walk out on the water with you, but don't you dare ask me to accept what grade I got on the test, you know?
Yeah.
But depending on where we are in life, recognizing that I did my best in the moment that I had, I didn't get the mark that I wanted. Can I trust that God is actually more in control of my life than my mark is, Or when things are going wrong in my life, when I've made a mistake, I think sometimes those are even more hard to trust God with because we know we did something wrong. For me to be able to step back and say, I messed up, maybe even I sinned, I hurt someone, I did something wrong. And I know that I can't go back in time and change it. It's done. It's too late. What's not too late is that the Lord can still work good out of it. Maybe that good is my apology, my penance, my whatever. Maybe that good is something that I can't participate directly in bringing out again, depending on the circumstance. And I have to trust the Lord to heal that person that I hurt.
Yeah.
And pray for them and trust. Maybe if I'm in the middle of a war, everything is amplified, right? Can I trust the Lord in moments where I am faced with evil? Maybe I've participated in evil. Can I trust the Lord that at the end of the day, He is able to work salvation for souls out of what is horrible on earth? And those are the kinds of things that we are striving towards in trust. The littlest, the greatest. And it really does bring us that peace that is not like the world gives peace. Maybe it doesn't change the status quo. Maybe it does, but maybe it doesn't. But it's true that it brings a peace that the world can't take no matter what goes wrong around us. We know that God is actually working and healing and converting and bringing people to Himself. And when we know those things, when we can see or trust in that hidden reality of life, there's not much that can shake us anymore.
Yeah. And I think maybe even a step more difficult from when I know I've messed up or I've hurt somebody is pain that has been caused in my life by other people.
Yes.
Especially like you think about children who go through really painful circumstances caused by whether it's natural disasters or whether it's like just actually the evil of people,
Right. Yeah.
who perpetrate violence.
Right.
And how do we trust God?
Like, where were you?
Yeah.
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 Where were you? And I think often God's answer is, I was with you.
Yeah.
And I was weeping. And sometimes that's satisfying and sometimes it's really, really not.
Yeah.
And just to trust in those circumstances, and can be heroic.
Yeah.
Can be a heroic reality. Yeah, there's really no simple answer there, except to say that God is simple and that he desires our sanctification, right? As we were just saying, he wants us in heaven with him, and he will use every circumstance of our life to bring us there. It may be completely mysterious. We may be saying to God, I have no idea what you're doing. I will never understand what you're doing. I refuse to understand what you're doing. But he knows what he's doing.
He does. And I think even in the midst of really difficult circumstances where we can't see, at least immediately, the change that we are longing for, or the change that is just, in fact.
Yeah.
To be able to look at the saints who trusted in the midst of very similar circumstances, possibly worse, and to see how God brought life in the midst of circumstances of death.
Yeah.
He brought healing in the midst of injury and violence. And that is not to be dismissed, because even though it may not be the fullness that we are longing for, and we are longing for that fullness because we're made for it, and it's coming.
Yeah.
But if we don't see it in the immediate, is there an alternative that's better? Is there an alternative action or belief that will bring more healing or more life or more hope than this? There isn't. There isn't. It's all trying to take control back ourselves, and we know how that's gone. I mean, we see it every day. Yeah. This is the thing that we can trust in is the best, and it's not like the best of a lot of evils. It's the best in that it's bringing to fulfillment that full justice, that full life that we are longing for.
Yeah, and I think too, like the reality of when I'm having a hard time trusting God, when I am wondering where were you?
Yeah,
that those are the things to bring to prayer.
Yes.
Those aren't the things to wander off by myself and be angry about or to think about or to kind of allow to fester.
Right. You weren't omnipresent. You don't know. He does. Ask him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are the things to have it out with him.
Yeah.
About, because he can take it and he wants to have that conversation with you, and he wants to find the way for his love to kind of break through those things that become obstacles.
Yes.
And to really, penetrate into the depths of our hearts with it. Okay, so we're going to wrap up this episode with some thoughts from Ileana, and actually kind of really relevant to what we were just talking about. It's really providential. We didn't totally plan this out this way, but just kind of the way the Spirit's been moving. So let's see what she's got to say here.
Right after I graduated high school, and I struggled with a lot of sin in high school, just got really far away from my faith. I was super involved in my youth group, but I just did all of the worldly things because I just wanted to be loved and known by people. So I would be one person at school and then another person at my youth group. And I was constantly battling, trying to figure out who I was. And then I went on this mission trip for a week in the summer with Shannon. And I was sitting with my friends at night and I was like, I'm living, I don't want to live the way that I'm living anymore. And I don't want to be like this when I go to college. I want to fully be into my faith. And so I think now, I think I've been struggling a lot within my faith is just knowing where to go next and how to dive deeper in my faith. Because I love Jesus and I really want to give my whole life to him, but I'm trying to still figure that out. And still struggling with my past sins and not shame necessarily, but just I don't know how to heal from all of the things from my past. And then I guess just fully hearing and knowing what God's plan is for me. I think last night in adoration, it was the first time I've ever fully had an encounter like this with Jesus where I looked at him in the monstrance and I like felt what he was calling me for. And it was so overwhelming and so scary to have to like make changes in my life. But it was also this like beautiful moment where I was like, I can hear his voice and I know what he's calling me for. And I'm terrified, but I trust in his plan. And I know that he's not abandoning me. So
honestly, that made me a little teary. So real. Yeah. I love this balancing of that feeling that you're two different people.
Mm-hmm.
It's very natural in a sense to comport ourselves differently with different people. To some extent, that's respectful.
Sure, it's appropriate in some ways.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But to, as she says, to kind of be two different people.
Yeah.
Is so real. And that can come from a real place of longing for acceptance, or of woundedness, depending on what's going on in our life.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and she specifically says that she's looking for love.
Mm-hmm.
She just wanted to be loved. She wanted to be known. And when God feels distant and when it is hard to trust in his love and that he knows us,
mm-hmm.
it is very easy to begin looking for it in other places.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And even knowing that we are known,
mm-hmm.
we are surrounded by tangible people. And it's natural to look to them and be like, okay, God, I know you know me, but they don't.
Mm-hmm.
I know you like me, but they don't.
Mm-hmm.
And they're the ones I'm interacting with all day.
Yeah.
And it's easy to say, I'm not interacting with you all day.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you are.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. That is such a natural thing to struggle with.
Yeah. Yeah. And then this question of how do I heal from that?
Mm-hmm.
Because again, those are patterns that we get into.
Yeah.
And they come with wounds, but they also become habits.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do we heal from that sort of thing?
I think one of the most scary and yet beautiful realities of this type of situation is when if you begin to make those changes that God is calling you to, you bring those changes back with you to that same group of people that you were struggling with. And I have to say, from my own personal experience, it's really easy to start to make those changes and then backslide with those same people, because when things get hard, you don't want to be the weird one. Nobody wants to do that. And I've done it myself, to be quite honest. But when you're able to make those changes and you bring those back to the people around you, sometimes that is a first place of encounter for those people. Or sometimes you had no idea that there was at least one other person in that group struggling with the exact same thing that you are.
Yep.
They were not being themselves. They felt pressured by how you were acting, thinking that was the real you,
Yeah.
This is the most
vicious
common
cycle.
Exactly. We perpetuate the cycle. And when you start to change, they have a chance to take a gasping breath from the ocean they're drowning in of insincerity and realize, oh my gosh, maybe I can be myself.
Yeah.
And you just gave them permission.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she kind of answers her own question there a little bit too.
Yes.
Where she says, she's asking, how can I trust and how do I heal and how do I struggle with these past sins? And she says that she had an experience in adoration the night before. And if you've never been to a conference where they do like this really intense, drawn out moment of adoration, it really is a moment of grace for people, especially those who maybe don't already have a habit of going to adoration on a regular basis. And she says that she had a sense of what God's plan is for her. And she's not saying that she like now knows what her vocation is and she's got her whole future, planned out. What she's really saying is she understands what God's desire is for her. And it's not for her to be these split people. It's for her to live for him, to allow him to heal her. And just as we've been saying, his desire is for her to end up in heaven.
Yes.
And so what are the next few steps that are going to help her to get on that path where she's continually drawing closer to him and responding to his invitations and his grace so that he can be working in her to sanctify her, to bring her to himself in heaven?
Yeah. And in doing so, the fullness of who she is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like in the most true and unique way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something too that gets a little bit lost is like when we say, like when Jesus says, be perfect as my heavenly Father is perfect. Or when we talk about like, okay, we have a universal call to holiness. That sounds very general and very generic, right?
Yeah,
to say we have a universal call to holiness makes it sound like there's this box that we all need to figure out how to fit into.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, when each person lives their holiness that they are called to, when they allow the Lord to sanctify them to the highest possible degree, that is where we get this incredible diversity of saints.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we get everything from a Carlo Acutis to a Mother Teresa.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're so incredibly different and they are so incredibly themselves.
Yeah.
And free
Mm-hmm.
and beautiful. And so this reality of like, as God sanctifies us, we become more totally ourselves and we become less and less in need of these different personas
Mm-hmm.
and these different ways of being around other people. The freedom that opens up, the joy that makes us capable of experiencing, all of it. Yeah, it's so beautiful.
It is. And it's overwhelming, especially when it's the beginning.
Yeah.
But my prayer for her, for everybody who's in this situation, is that it may be an overwhelming wave of joy.
Yes.
And of confidence and love.
So I hope that all of this conversation and all of the comments that the students had, like I really hope that you, all of our listeners, are feeling moved and motivated to begin to like grow a little bit more in prayer, wherever your starting point is, like wherever you're at right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's always something a little bit deeper, a little bit more intense, a little bit closer to God that we can be pursuing, that He is actually desiring for us. And so my prayer for all of you is that your heart would be more and more opened to hearing what He is inviting as the next step in your life.
Amen.
So we'll be praying that, and we will see you in the next couple of weeks.
And please pray for us too.
Yay! God bless.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. Dare to Dwell is a production of the Daughters of St. Paul and is brought to you by our generous supporters on Patreon. For more information about our sisters or ministry, or to learn about how you can support us, visit connect.pauline.org/Patreon. God bless you.